Cherelle Parker, please.
Thank you, Chairman Greenlee and members of the Rules Committee. Good afternoon. As someone who's had the great honor of representing a diverse group of constituents during my time in elected office, I've observed many public hearings and community meetings for development projects. And one thing that strikes me is how differently those meetings are run depending on the technical capacity of the RCOs, Registered Community Organizations. Some have zoning attorneys, engineers, architects, planners, so their questions and discussions tend to be much more in detail when you have that technical skill set that is inherently a part of your organization. This legislation, which enacts a project information form, is only meant to be a communications tool, and it's intended to level the playing field by ensuring that all community groups, regardless of their size, technical capacity, or skill set, get a baseline of information when it comes to potential development in their community. This will also cut down on the spread of misinformation. For all of the district council members who are members of this Rules Committee, you know, there is nothing more frustrating for us as elected officials and even the development community when, whether it's intentional or unintentional, misinformation regarding your project is spewed in the community. This eliminates that by putting in writing and making the process more transparent. The developer's voice is heard and it is unfiltered via the project information form. In addition, we've also heard from some developers who said that this form will serve almost as a testimonial to their work, because when they go into different neighborhoods throughout the city, they will be able to point back to a form, a project information form that they created in another area to cite what they've done. I'm proud to say that this legislation was also developed with, and I want to, Councilwoman, I don't know if you say underscore, capital, period. I'll remember your language, but we have had significant input from the development community and the administration and RCOs and general residents regarding this legislation. We began working on our first draft in October. We've had multiple meetings with developers, refining to make sure that this legislation does not negatively impact development, because that's the last thing that we as a city trying to grow our tax base and the pie would want to do. With that being said, we made several edits to both the substance and the form of the legislation as late as yesterday. And I want to thank those who took time to engage in that process. And I have to give a special thanks to Councilman Curtis Jones, who, because of his prior experience in the development community, answered a question that had been posed to me, and I didn't have the answer to it, but naturally, just because of his experience, he was able to assist. And to Councilman at Large Alan Dom, whose life's work is development and working to help to facilitate that conversation with the development community. In addition to that, I want to be very clear, and you heard it today, that there are some RCOs and community-based organizations who don't think that this legislation has teeth. And to a certain degree, they are right. We have an opinion that was provided to each member of the Rules Committee that this legislation is not legally binding. And I do want to repeat that for the record. It is not legally binding. So the explanation that you heard earlier, that this information could be used during the zoning board's assessment or deliberations regarding how they're going to rule on a certain matter, it cannot, and the law department justifies that for us. In addition to that, I won't go through the form because I met with you and talked with you about those questions, but what I do want to note for the record is that the questions that are included in the form are very general and baseline, but I want to note for the record that this is the form used. And how many pages is this here? Because I want to note this for the record. This is a total of 8 pages worth of questions. And let me just say that the spacing is not as generous as the spacing included in the form that we use, but this is from the Chestnut Hill Civic Association, and this is the level of detail that they require when you want to do any kind of development in their community. This is the form, this is the guideline for applicants provided for by SASNA. And when I tell you these organizations do outstanding work, they really do make this project information form look like a marshmallow because of the level of detail that these organizations require. And this here is the actual sort of the guidelines provided for by the Center City Residents Association. Zoning, information, procedures, and contact. Now I know all of the technical. Well, listen, this is. Well, wait, they printed this, and I think this is about this is 4 pages, but Councilman, for the record, this is not the form. These are just the guidelines, so you know what you are going to.
You're just getting started, right?
Yeah, getting started in the process. And I say that to say, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, that I applaud the technical capacity and the skill set of these respective organizations, and do want you to know that the form that you have represents the bare minimum of information that we hope will be distributed across the city and level the playing field for those who don't have a lawyer, an architect, an engineer, a part of their process. And Councilman Johnson, as I listen to your response relating to the earlier bill to the gentleman, in essence, his comments justify the need for what we're trying to do here when he talked about certain organizations lacking the technical savvy and understanding of the development process to ensure that they're asking the right questions. Again, the amendments that you have before you today are very technical in nature, and I thank each and every one of you for your patience.
Thank you. And I think the key, as you said, is information. That's what we're